Okay, that was really anticlimactic. I got all ready and then I pressed the thing and I started talking and I realized it was taking pictures and not recording a video. Hi, how are you all doing? I have been listening to Melissa Broder's podcast, Eating Alone in My Car, which I think she hasn't uploaded in a year or over a year at least. At least the last episode that she posted was like about Easter, but I don't think it was this Easter, so it must have been a previous year. So I'm sure, like, everyone has already gone on about her podcast and how funny it is, and but she's always like a good podcast to go to when Ohad and I are on a long drive, or like yesterday we missed our train, so we had to sit in the car for like another 25 minutes, and we were like, let's listen to an episode. Um, and something about the really laid back energy of her podcast, like that is literally the forum of her eating alone in her car and talking, just inspired me to like come on here and talk more. Like, I'm filming on my MacBook, which I'm enjoying doing lately because then it's already on my computer and I don't have to deal with all that other shit to get the footage here. That always takes like half a day. Um, I recently had to replace my computer. I was very, very sad because my previous computer was a MacBook 12-inch. It was the smallest, thinnest one. I mean, it basically weighed like a Kindle. I mean, not really, but like not that much more. It was so, so small. Um, it was just perfect. I was obsessed. I bought it because a coworker of mine had it, and both of us had been messaging each other recently, like, "Are you also devastated that our computer doesn't work anymore, and they don't make the battery anymore, so you basically can't do anything to help the computer. We have to replace it." So I had to. It sounds like so whiny for like so many privileged reasons, but I had to upgrade my computer when I was very sad about it. And now, of course, I love it. It's fine. We love the MacBook Air, whatever. This is 13 inches. And this camera is like quite fine. So, anyway, I'm rambling on about how I enjoyed just the laid back energy of Melissa's podcast, and then it made me think about just being a bit more unfiltered on here. I'm watching golfers. Anyway, so yes, I'm here. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about today. Oh, no, I do know what I'm going to talk about. Two very exciting things. One is that I was just approved on NetGalley for Deborah Levy's new book, which I had no idea that she had a new book out, and also it's nonfiction, which I love of hers. I mean, I like nonfiction in general, but specifically, I enjoy Deborah Levy's memoirs and nonfiction writing a lot. Even more, I would say, than her fiction, although I loved Swimming Home. Um, but this is called The Position of Spoons and Other Intimacies. It's coming out by FSG. Let's see if it tells me when. No, but here's a different little cover with some spoons on it. I had no idea she was coming out with something new, but I ran on when I saw it on NetGalley, I was like yelling out loud. So this is very exciting news. I have not started it yet. The first, I think it's really short vignette type essays, and the first one is on Colette, called "Bathed in an Arc of French Light." So I will report back on that because I'm so excited about this acquisition. And then I just finished a book that I enjoyed so much, and I literally closed the book, held it turned on my side on the couch or whatever and just like closed my eyes and hugged this book for a few minutes. I'm gonna go get it. Okay, so the book is Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout. Um, I'm sure you know Elizabeth Strout. She wrote the Amgash books, which were following the character Lucy Barton. So the first one is My Name is Lucy Barton. Then you have, there's another one in that series that's like short, like short stories. Is it Anything is Possible? I think it might be called. And then Oh William, which is a book about Lucy Barton's ex-husband William. And then Lucy by the Sea was the most recent last one from in that series. And then she also wrote Olive Kittredge and Olive Again. Olive Kittredge books I did not read, and I only read the first one, My Name is Lucy Barton, from the Amgash series, quartet. And I loved My Name is Lucy Barton, and I don't know why I didn't continue it. I think because it was never available at the library, and I read the first one on the library copy on my Kindle, and then in all the bookstores, I would only see like the last two. And something about like when I read a book, when I start a series and and I start it digitally, I can't just purchase a physical book, like one of them from the middle. You know what I mean? That means I would have to also buy physically the book that I already read. And that feels like at this point in time for me, I can't justify doing that. Like, of course, like the Outline trilogy of Cusk for me is like my trilogy for life, at least for now. And I still don't own those books physically because I read them digitally, and I can't be buying books that I've already read right now. I have a problem buying books in general, as is. So all of that to say that I don't know why I didn't continue the Amgash series, but I loved My Name is Lucy Barton. I loved the style. I loved the voice. I loved how character driven it was, and I was just obsessed with Elizabeth Strout's writing, like from the moment that I read that book, and I read that book in one sitting. That was a few years ago. So, anyways, I saw that this book was making its rounds on Instagram, and it comes out in August. So I wrote to Random House, who publishes this, and asked if they would send me a copy because I was really, really, really like wanting to read more Elizabeth Strout, and my impression was that this was a standalone book that doesn't have anything to do with the other books that she's written, which I'll get to in a second. And I had no idea if they would answer me, but they did, and they sent me in the mail. So thank you so much to Random House for sending me this. So this is on sale August 13th, 2024. To my surprise, it involves all the characters that she's ever really written about. So you've got Lucy Barton in this book. You've got William, her ex-husband. You've got Olive Kittredge. And it takes place in Crosby, Maine. And we're following mostly a main character named Bob Burgess. And he's the town lawyer. And he's a good friend of Lucy Barton's. And just kind of like a man in the community that everybody likes. Like, everybody knows Bob, everybody likes Bob. If you watched Anna Wallace Johnson's video, Books for Gossipy Bitches, so I would like to add this to the list because this is such a wonderful cast of characters. The premise is sort of that. Well, the premise is sort of, yeah, storytelling. Like, wow, how do I explain it? Bob Burgess is a lawyer, and he's been hired to represent another man in the community who has been accused of killing his mother. And they're kind of like a strange family, and this woman was really hated. She worked in the school cafeteria. All the kids like called her really mean names. She was not, people were not fond of her. And so she moved to this house kind of like outside of Crosby, Maine, like in a different town. And one day she shows up dead, like she's been put in a car and driven into a lake or something. And the only person they suspect is her son. So Bob takes on this case of representing Matt is his name. So that's like one thing that's going on. You're following many characters. This is probably the book with the most characters that I've ever read, and generally it's not something that I go for in books very much. I like a singular, very insular book normally, like where you follow one person and you really get in their headspace and their experience of the world. And so this was quite out of my comfort zone in the sense of such a large cast of people, but I feel like she made it so digestible that I never was confused who was who. It was very clear, like, who are the people? How are they related to each other? She brought them back enough, like frequently enough that I never lost track of anyone. And why I say it's good for like a gossipy book, it's because it's exactly that. It's like Crosby, Maine, small town where everyone kind of knows each other and everyone has something to say about each other, and they're all like, the distance between each person in this community is so small. So that was just so fun, and it was so beautiful. Like, really, Bob is such a wonderful character, and Lucy Barton is a writer, and she develops this kind of friendship with Olive Kittredge. So you've got like two very famous characters of Elizabeth Strout's other books meeting each other in this retirement home that Olive is living in. And at first they kind of like have a strange relationship, like a little bit judgy of one another, or at least Olive is quite judgmental of Lucy as being someone who's come from the outside, like, and she's a New Yorker, and she's living in Maine, and she's a writer and all these things. But then they start having like these sort of repetitive meetings where they tell each other stories, and they tell each other stories about people or family or unrecorded lives, they call them. Like, what was the point of this story? This story was just a life, and it's an unrecorded life, and maybe if we tell this person's story to one another, then it's recorded somehow. And the whole book is kind of like about that, or like on the theme of unrecorded lives and what does a person leave behind. Brimming with empathy and pathos, Tell Me Everything is Elizabeth Strout, operating at the height of her powers, illuminating the ways in which our relationships keep us afloat. A beloved cast of characters as they deal with a shocking crime in their midst, fall in love and yet choose to be apart, and grapple with the question, as Lucy Barton puts it, what does anyone's life mean? And because most of our characters are middle-aged or aging, it's really beautiful, like a beautiful exploration of friendship at that age, love at that age, finding love, falling out of love, relationships and how they transform over time and transform with age, and just a really beautiful friendship between Lucy Barton and Bob. and the kind of love that they have for one another and how that develops. And it's broken up into four books. So yeah, you've got like, yeah, four sections of the book. And I just found it so enjoyable, so readable, so like quite daily and ordinary, but never boring and never overwritten, and very Elizabeth Strout. Like she has something so singular about the way that she writes, and also the you feel that the person who's telling you, like who you're reading from, like the first sentence is, "This is the story of Bob Burgess, a tall, heavy-set man who lives in the town of Crosby, Maine, and he's 65 years old at the time that we are speaking of him." So you have this sensation like the person that someone is like telling you the story of all of these people. And you don't know who that person is, who our narrator is, but the narrator has a strong sense of knowing and has a lot of information. And really, yeah, just very beautiful in how time passes and you go through the seasons. And I feel like in the past, with books like this, with many characters and many different plot lines, it actually takes me a long time to get through a book like that, or I end up falling out of it. And with this, I was just so pleased and happy to read through it and just to keep reading it. Like I read it quite fast, um, like a matter of days, or like maybe over a week's time. Um, what else should I say about it? It's quite sad. There's a lot of solemn and, yeah, heart wrenching, but also heartwarming stories and themes to the contents of this book. And it feels like that's why I wanted to hug this book when it was done. It feels like it has like a healing quality to it to read. There's quite a lot of grief in this book. And yeah, I wanted to hug this book. I wanted to prolong my reading experience because whoa. What was that bubble? Did you see that bubble? Whoa, I don't know if I like that. What else does it gonna do? And a lot about love and love between parents and children, between lovers, between marriage and in marriage, um, at different ages. Yeah, and I just like I wanted to prolong the experience of reading this because I didn't want to leave these characters. But now I'm so happy that I have like her whole oeuvre to read through, that involve a lot of the characters that are in this book. And actually, I just read as well the publisher's note from the executive vice president of Random House, and he writes here that he thinks that this book is the perfect book to start with, to get into Elizabeth Strout's world. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was that we know that I like a bit of mystery. I like a bit of crime books, especially when I need like pleasure reading or something that doesn't make my brain work hard, or I'm really struggling in my life or something, and I need to be removed, from wherever I am. I go towards books that have some kind of crime element to them, and this had that as well. So it was, for me, it was just perfect. It was like the crime element in like a super beautifully written literary fiction book. Yeah, she's described here as having extraordinary capacity for radical empathy, and I really agree with that. That definitely comes through. this is your public service announcement to read this when it comes out. So that's that. And the Deborah Levy I'm super excited about. I also, what was I gonna say? I think that's it for now. Just wanted to pop on here. I thought this would be short and quick, but it wasn't. It was been filming for almost half an hour, so I should probably cut it off here because no one wants to be sitting in front of a computer screen for that long. Big changes over here. We're back at my aunt's house, aunt and uncle's house in New York, outside of the city. Jacob is really, really cute on the couch. Jacob's our dog, if you're new here. So all I had was just taking some pictures of him, our sweet little puddle. We're in New York for the rest of the month, and then we head back to Richmond, Virginia, and we signed on a little apartment there. So yeah, lots of changes and decision making, but we are excited. It'll be nice to finally have a little space that we can call ours and put our stuff in. We've had so many amazing, generous people give us homes to stay in since we've moved back to the US. And that's been amazing. But yeah, I think it'll be really nice that we have a place like that's ours and we can keep our stuff there. And yeah, the stressful thing about it is it's an empty home, and other than a lot of clothes, we don't have anything. Like, we have to start basically from scratch, furnishing the house. So that is gonna happen, I guess, in some ways quickly because we'll need things, and then on other ways maybe slowly because we'll just acquire things as we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. You look good. We're gonna go walk the dog
Yes.
in a bit. That's all. Bye. What's this? Bye now.